I wanted to talk to you about a situation that often happens with reformers. So, if you are a reformer, or if you're in a significant relationship, a close relationship with a reformer, this will help on both sides. So, here's what happens. Reformers think big and they have lots of ideas. So what will happen is in conversation they will start saying a big idea. I'll give you an example because I'm married to a reformer, so this often has happened over the years, and I didn't deal with it well at first, but have learned to deal with it in a much better way. And this is what we want to talk about. So a lot of times when my husband and I will talk about retirement or the future, about what we're going to do, he often throws out that he would like to move to Alaska or something like that, live off grid in the middle of nowhere, which would initially, when those suggestions would come up, I would hyperventilate and start throwing out all the scenarios and the practical aspects of why this is not a good idea. Not to mention that does not seem something that like I would like to do. But here's what I want to say about that. Because when you're dealing with a reformer, reformers do come up with lots of ideas, and what those of you that aren't reformers have to understand is that not every idea, not every dream that a reformer comes up with is something that's going to become a reality. And because a reformer needs they are wired to not have boundaries. They don't like to feel like they're fenced in and trapped. So one, having the ability to dream, which we all need that, but particularly with the reformer, having the ability to think about different situations and dreams that they have, this gives them a form and an outlet for not being fenced in. So what I want to say too, if you are in relationship in some sort of way with a reformer, that when an idea comes up that they suggest, that you don't shut it down, because what the reality is every idea that comes across will not happen, not necessarily. Now some of them will, and if they were to come in and say, I have this idea, we need to go out to the bank right now and take out a loan for $5,000 and do some, well, okay, well, maybe then we need to throw in some practical thinking here. Let's talk about this before we jump in. But just in a conversation and being able to just dream about things, shutting someone down just because it's not practical, is not the best way to deal with that, because as soon as you would shut them down on whatever they're thinking of, they will feel that being fenced in, they will feel that restriction, they will feel like they're trapped. And so it's not that you would necessarily encourage the dream, you're just going to listen and hear what they have to say. So for those of you that aren't reformers, this is what you need to do, is to be able to not freak out. So because they have big faith, they're going to jump out there on big things that aren't necessarily practical, but this is how new things come into being, and that's okay. So if you are a reformer, I think it's just good for you to know that sometimes you can cause stress in people's lives by some of the ideas that you bring to the table. So here's the balance. If you're a reformer and the people that you are around don't know what that means, this is something that you can tell them. Listen, I know everything I come up with may not be something that becomes a reality, but can you just dream with me? Can we just talk about it? And down the road, if it's something that we really need to do, then we can add in the practical, because the practical does have to come into play. And then if you are not the reformer but you live with the reformer, you need to understand how they're wired so that you can not be stressed, because it can be stressful thinking that everything that they're saying is going to happen. I can say this even a long time ago when I was on a board, the exact same scenario would happen. The person leading the meeting was a reformer, so they would have all of these big ideas coming out in the board meeting, and I was absolutely, for lack of a better term, freaking out, because I'm like, there's not enough money for that, there's not enough people for that, there's not enough, like, it's not practical. And maybe one idea is practical, but we can't do them all. But I did not understand, at the time, I didn't understand this information. So it's just something that if you have the understanding, you can allow people to be who they are. You can, if you're a reformer, you can tell people how to deal with your ideas in a better way so they don't shut you down. And it's just a little bit of a give and take on both ends. So hopefully that makes sense, and that can just give you a better understanding of how, again, we're all wired differently, and not one is right or wrong, but it's a fact. This is what we do. This is how we're wired. Reformers are always going to have lots of ideas, and not all of them are going to come into fruition. And the practical people that are in their lives are always going to know why it can't be done, but maybe not saying all that stuff right at first, and just listening is a good idea until we need to have a little bit more. This might be the idea, and then we do get practical. So, anyway, I hope that helps give you a little more insight, and we'll talk to you later.